Please find yourself a seat. We're going to call this meeting to order. This is Wednesday, August the 17th. This is a special meeting of the Williston City Council. It is 6 p.m. And I'll ask Ms. Wright to please call the roll.
Mayor Goodman.
I am here.
President Jones.
Here.
Go again.
Vice President Robinson.
Here.
Councilmember Bullock.
Here.
Councilmember Cox.
Here.
Councilmember Ross.
Here.
City Attorney Jackie Gorman. Absent. Deputy City Manager Dina Nelson. Absent. City Attorney Scott Walker.
Here.
Attorney Kirsten Ballou.
Here.
City Clerk Latricia Wright. I'm here. And all other staff.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you for all being here. We will stand at this time for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance by the Mayor.
Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to gather together as a community in a country where freedom wasn't free, Lord. I ask you to be with each one of these people who have sacrificed their time to bring them safely home at the conclusion of this meeting, and to be with each one of them. And Lord, I just ask that you be with each one of us who have to deal with difficult issues, to help us and guide us and give us the necessary wisdom to do whatever it is that we feel needs done. I ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, the one item on our agenda tonight says discussion with possible action, Mayor Charles Goodman and City Council.
Thank you, President Jones. I have a presentation that I would like to read, and with the President's permission, I would just like to give everybody a copy so they can refer to it. I ask that I be allowed to read the presentation, and then we can discuss any parts of it as you will have it in front of you. Would you please pass these around? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
As the mayor, I have no supervisor responsibility of the city manager. However, I do have a responsibility to the city to bring items to the attention of the council as I need to. In this effort, I have called this special meeting. When the current city manager was hired, the council at that time had concerns. So much so that for the first time in the history of the city, as far as I know, the council appointed an assistant city manager out of concern for what they did not know about the methods of the person that they were hired. In this appointment, the new assistant was charged with keeping an eye out for problems and reporting to the council any problems that might arise. When I was elected, I was informed that the appointed by the council assistant city manager had resigned. After 26 years of his service to the city, I was surprised. But things happened, so I thought no more of it, until I was told by an officer what truly happened. It turns out that CJ resigned because the current city manager had decided that she had issues with him and had an armed police officer in her office when CJ was called in. He was given the choice to resign or be fired. Being fired would impact his ability to get other jobs, so he made the decision to quit to protect his future. This, by definition, is forced resignation, not willful resignation. Several months ago, an anonymous letter was delivered to the city. This, I felt, should have been taken as someone who was venting. Instead, the current city manager went into what I call attack mode, spending tax dollars, installing cameras everywhere, monitoring phone calls, and calling for increased police presence. I found that an email that I had sent to a council member was on the current city manager's desk. I asked the clerk, had there been a request for information? She said there had not. I went to Aaron, the IT person, and he told me that during an investigation, the city manager had searched our email, and a phrase that I had used in this email was repeated in the anonymous letter. I said that the current city manager should not have gone through the mayor's email. He replied that because it was an investigation, it was allowed. Article 210 of the Charter states that the council may make investigation into the affairs of the city and the conduct of any city department, office, or agency, and for the purposes may subpoena witness, and it goes into further detail. This was not brought to my attention by the current city manager, but by others. This, I thought, was an ethical breach at best. The chief of our police department had a problem. He and I had been told that the whole problem between the police department and the city was our former chief of police and former mayor. We both, after talking, agreed that as a new chief and a new mayor, we would make a concerted effort to heal any issues and help unite the city as it should be. Our chief had an officer who had to be on light duty for an extended period. He went to the current city manager and inquired as to whether that officer could work in City Hall until light duty was removed. The city manager agreed to that. For 4 months, that officer worked in City Hall for the administration, being paid by the police department out of their budget. The chief was informed that another officer was retiring. It takes 2 months after hiring a police officer to actually get them in the field on duty. The chief went to the current manager and he asked if the officer working in City Hall could be paid by the administration so that he could go ahead and hire a replacement officer and begin the training process. For weeks, he could get no reply. He asked for my help. I talked to the current city manager and was told it would be reviewed. I waited a week, and the chief once again reached out to the current city manager. The chief was told that Stephen Bloom had said the only way the officer's pay could be transferred was by the administration creating a new position, and she had no open position the officer could fill. This happened after the officer had in fact worked in the city administration for 4 months. The chief was told that he would have to go to the council and they would have to give direction to do anything. I explained to the current city manager that because we were down 2 officers when this all happened, we were going to have to pay a lot more overtime to be able to do our necessary jobs for the city. This should have been an easy thing to do. Because the current city manager chose this path, it became an impossible thing to do. As a result, we will just have to pay overtime to the officers as needed. This costs the city money. I told the chief to remove the officer from City Hall, and if necessary, have that officer stay home and pay them for staying home. That was done. I was approached about an issue that recently happened to a long-term employee who had considered being able to retire this year. As we all know, the world has changed, and this employee felt that he no longer had that option. No letter of intent was ever signed. However, when this employee found out he was being required to retire, he went to the current city manager and her appointed assistant, and the employee told that there was no option, that he had to retire. He pointed out that he had only said he wanted to try to retire, and asked if he needed to get an attorney. At that time, the current city manager claimed he was threatening her. And the appointed assistant said he had no choice but to be let go. Then his position was completely removed from the budget, creating a threshold to force him to retire against his will. This happened after well over 20 years of service to the city. There was an event witnessed by the current city manager in which the fire chief felt he was treated with hostility. The chief was so taken aback that he filed a hostile work environment complaint. The city manager told the chief that the person who was accused would be given time to respond. After waiting weeks, the chief again had to ask what was happening about his complaint. He was told at that time that by the current city manager that she had hired a mediator recommended by the city attorney, an investigation into the affairs of the city and the conduct, he was told that she had hired a mediator recommended by the city, and it was out of the current city manager's hands. Article 210 of the charter again states that the council may make an investigation into the affairs of the city. I have been approached by several city employees who, in fear of being fired by the current manager, requested that I not reveal who they are. They would talk to any council member, but frankly, don't want to lose their jobs for telling what they believe to be true. An atmosphere of lack of respect for others, hostility, fear, and anger pervades City Hall. In conversations with the current city manager in my office, the current city manager made the comment that the city clerk was not good at her job, and that she would do better acting as events coordinator. At that time, I responded to the current city manager that if someone is struggling at their job, my feelings are that you should help them, not attempt to remove them, and that removal should be a last resort. I pointed out that the clerk is a constitutional officer appointed by the council, and that a city manager has no supervision powers over the clerk, at which time she ended the conversation. It has been reported to me by numerous employees that the current city manager has on many occasions said derogatory and negative comments about the mayor and his mental abilities. When I, as the mayor, sent an email message to the appointed city manager / HR director telling her that if she had any questions about me personally, she should address them to me directly. The reply I received from the appointed assistant city manager / HR director, which I have copies of, was extremely aggressive. In those comments, I was informed that if the mayor wanted to talk at any time to the appointed assistant city manager, HR director, that the mayor would have to send an email, and the appointed assistant city manager, HR director, would then decide when she could schedule a time for the mayor to talk to her. I have this email in evidence. I did not respond to that type of correspondence. I called the current city manager and asked for a meeting. At that time, the city manager had already seen both my email and the response before I could call her. The current city manager told me she was aware of it and that she was sure that the appointed assistant city manager had taken my comment differently and had responded how she felt. I told the city manager that it was an inappropriate way to address the mayor, and it was disrespectful to the office of the mayor of the city of Williston, and that I would not be calling the assistant city manager, HR director, at any time to be treated that way and to try to schedule an appointment. In closing, I believe that there is a demonstrated pattern of poor decision making and questionable choices made by the current city manager. I believe by her own actions, she has alienated many employees of the city of Williston, and that they have lost respect for the position of city manager. She has attacked and alienated mid-level employees to the point that they struggle to perform their job. I believe that only the council has the authority and the power granted to them by the charter to take whatever actions they deem necessary to create an environment of fairness in our city where people will want to come, live, play, work, and raise their family. Charles Goodman, Mayor of Williston.
Are you
I'm through, yes, ma'am, I yield.
I really don't know where to go from there.
I've got about 3 pages to read too, if y'all want to hear that. But,
Can I stop for a minute and
Yes.
ask if this is a proper meeting? Wasn't there some discussion we were supposed to have about that at the beginning?
this is the discussion.
About talking to the 2 attorneys.
Oh.
Or the 3 attorneys that are in the room that I know of. Maybe more, but I know of 3.
So, your question brings up 2 separate issues that have 2 separate answers. Was the meeting properly noticed? Can we have this discussion? The answer to that, Scott and I believe, is yes. We can have this discussion. This meeting was properly noticed. All the procedures were had. The second part is whether or not a formal vote or action can be taken on this meeting on a specific issue. And because because the agenda didn't adequately state any specific issue, we would advise not taking a formal vote at this meeting. Discussion, yes. If there's going to be a formal vote on something, our recommendation would be that a more specific agenda item be given so that the public knows to come to that meeting.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It says on the agenda, discussion with possible action. To my knowledge, that means we can take action.
Again, for
As
what?
a vote.
For what?
For what?
Yeah, it doesn't say for what.
I can read mine and I can bring that motion to the floor.
But there is no just. If you read the Florida statute, it actually says you have to say what the meeting is about on the agenda. And I don't believe that that was properly done. And I'll leave, that's why I'm asking the attorneys that question.
So the
They may think it has been
The
properly done.
meeting is that on? Is it, Is it? Okay. The meeting is properly noticed. We're in a public meeting.
Yes, I agree.
We can have discussion. I think that that's appropriate, and the discussion can be had. The problem is to take action based upon that discussion is potentially violative of due process. And this isn't just Kirsten's opinion or my opinion. There's a number of Attorney General opinions. So the Attorney General of our state of Florida, Ashley Moody, has said that the meaning of due public notice is variable depending on the facts of each situation. The purpose of notice is to apprise individuals or the public generally of pendency of matters which may affect their personal and property rights and afford them opportunity to appear and present their views. Now, certainly we have a full house tonight. Certainly people, based upon probably last night's meeting, may have thought that this would be in relation to our city manager. And there was certainly interplay and discussion last night at the regularly scheduled meeting about this issue. But there may be other people that didn't have notice or didn't pick up on the public notice that this in fact was a special meeting about the city manager. And those are the people that we would be worried about from a procedural due process side of it. So you have substantive due process and procedural due process. The easiest thing to stub your toe on is procedural due process. And Ashley Moody goes on to say, in every case, notice must reasonably convey all the information required in a situation that must afford reasonable time for the interested persons to make an appearance if they wish. And then it goes on to say, what is proper notice? And there is proper notice of a meeting tonight, so there's a public, there can be discussion, certainly, about this issue. It is axiomatic that the right to be present and heard has little meaning or value unless the public is informed that particular matters are pending and can choose whether or not to attend and participate in the meeting. Understanding for the purpose of the notice assists in the formulation of a functional definition of that term. And it goes on to say elementary and fundamental requirements of due process is reasonable notice that be calculated under the circumstances to apprise interested parties of the pendency of the action, afford them the opportunity to be present and make their objections if they so choose. So my advice to you would be to not take action this evening. We can have a discussion if you wish to, as a collective group, to schedule this for another special meeting, put the notice on the agenda, or you can certainly bring this up at a regularly scheduled meeting. But to make a motion tonight, I think would put it in jeopardy. A motion and a vote tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Ms. Robinson, you want to continue with whatever you're doing?
Oh, sure.
I had just sort of heard about that through the grapevine, and I wanted to make sure we got that on
I'm
record.
reading, I'm going to read.
I mean, if
Y'all
you
are
want.
ready to listen.
That's what we're here for, I guess.
Okay, the discussion. And then at the end, can I say what I want put on the next agenda? Gotcha. Thank you.
We'll have everybody else's opinion. Or you can add it. You can add it at your end if you want to, but there may be
Because
others
this,
that have opinions.
you're right. I've had many employees come to my house to discuss the problems with the CM and DCM/HR director. They don't feel comfortable going to the DCM, HR with the HR problems. Those employees no longer feel comfortable coming to my house because the CM lives down the street from my house and could see their vehicles, and it would be retaliated on them. Excuse me. I spoke to a couple of employees away from City Hall because they don't feel comfortable being here talking because it would be retaliated on them. There was one individual, and I'm not going to name any names, that's up to him or her. He came down And she complained of an agenda item that he was supposed to speak about. She came down on him, instructed him to do it her way. The CM and DCM/HR director came down on him and instructed him not to go to their side of the building, which is a violation of HR. Instructing him not to have contact with HR is a violation. He has to have access to HR director, which proves HR does not draw the line between DCM and HR and CM. And y'all know what CM, DCM, y'all are smart. He has been hollered at on phones and in public. He has recordings and documents of everything. At a budget workshop, I heard the CM getting upset with airport managers' requests for raises. She says, right over here, I can hear. She had made the comment, maybe she should be an employee so she can get paid more. She said it's not right that the employees were getting more than her. I told her, go for it. After the workshop, I walked over to the community center to thank the department heads for wanting to help each of the other department heads. I overheard the CM and DCM/HR director belittling Jonathan and Donald, and they had better ask for everything and up their budget. They did not agree, and the CM and DCM/HR got more upset with them. I have been keeping my distance from City Hall, excuse me, because it seems that the employees, seems to cause employees problems with the CM and DCM/HR, which breaks my heart because I love visiting with the employees. They're good jokers. A couple of months ago, when the anonymous letter came out, I approached the CM in the parking lot, at which she almost backed over me, and I asked her what was going on at City Hall. She stated she was, pissed about the letter and having it investigated, which cost the city money. I asked why, and she asked me if I thought it was true, and I said yes, the letter was true. I saw nothing wrong in that letter. She said there were threats in that letter. I told her I saw it, I read it again many times. There were no threats. I believe the whole security thing and the imagination of threats was just a diversion on her part. She started crying and got upset with me. She asked me to go to her office to talk. I did. I once again told her I did not like her process of selecting the DCM/HR. There were better employees to fill that position. Ms. Nelson is new. She is HR director, and there was a conflict and no qualifications as we required of the CM. Last night, she publicly accused me and Mayor Goodman of writing the anonymous letter, which is not true. To me, but it's not true. Doesn't matter to me who wrote it. If they were very observant of the matters of City Hall. Quite frankly, there was nothing wrong with that letter. Every bit of it was the truth. Did Mayor Goodman email? We do email each other. There's nothing wrong with that. We do that if we are guilty of the emails, but we did, and I did not write a letter. Neither did Mr. Goodman that I know of. I told her that I have seen and heard the employees coming to me with their hesitation going to HR, DCM, or CM. They can't trust either the city manager or DCM/HR. She asked who I talked to, and I would not tell her. She said whoever I was talking to are liars, that everyone loves her, and they all love each other. And I would not tell her who I was talking to. She said they all get along and there was no problems, and everyone loves the DCM/HR director. We discussed her decision to pick her own DCM that I did not approve, which was common knowledge. I mentioned it at a meeting. Everyone knows that. Because I was surprised at a council meeting about her decision. I think the only council members that were not surprised was President Jones and maybe Mr. Cox. At that meeting, she told us that her choice, she stated, there was a panel that chose a DCM and interviewed her. I asked who was on that panel and who else did they interview. I got no answers. Obviously, my questions were avoided. The next day, I emailed CM asking the same. I received no reply. 2 days later, I asked the same thing and basically was told that I didn't know what I was talking about and I misunderstood the statements. Others heard the same statements I did at that meeting. At another meeting, I stated that I thought the better choice would be Lamar Stiegel or Benton Stiegel. Well, because of my comments, those two have been told that they were upset because, and now they're jealous that they were not picked, which was so absurd. Employees would come to my house complaining and voicing that they do not trust the DCM/HR or the CM and don't know who they are supposed to bring HR matters to. Those employees are now afraid to come to my house in fear because she lives down the street. I've been told when an employee agrees or anything with me and or Jerry or sees us together with that employee is asked if they were on team Jerry and Marguerite, and they should think differently. I've been told that CM and DCM/HR say I needed to be replaced on council and put a word out to search for my replacement. I love being on the council and representing the people that voted for me. Excuse me. Voted for me. I've been on this council since 2017. They have also told people that I do exactly what Jerry wants me to say or how he wants me to vote. Trust me. We might discuss things, and he knows I have my own opinion. I do have a brain, and I do what the citizens, the residents of this city want me to do, not just what I want to do. People that know me know that the CM and DCM/HR comments are not accurate. I may have no filter, and they don't like it. I will not apologize for that. I have been told that I am thinking. What I'm thinking doesn't necessarily have to come out of my mouth. Well, it does, and Jerry will tell you that it does as well. Sorry. I have asked Jerry's opinions when I am stuck on something, and I value his opinions. I may or may not agree with him. That is up to me, and he's okay with that. I have found the CM and DCM/HR do not like being questioned by way of email, in person, or at a meeting. They just don't like being questioned. I am hearing of emails and phone calls being monitored, and that proved to be true with the CM's letter last night, monitoring mine and Mayor Goodman's emails. If CM and DCM/HR do not agree or does not like that an employee is in contact with people they don't like, that employee is basically scolded in private or at a meeting in front of others. Last night, the CM included the DCM and HR/ in her letter with how they feel. Well, now that proves this is a special meeting concerning both of them, in my eyes. Almost on a daily basis, the president comes to City Hall, and thank you for doing that, Deborah, because someone needs to do the CM's job. CM should be able to perform a job without others doing it for her. Someone needs to keep track of the CM and look over her shoulder. Right now, we have a $500 a month CM with Deborah doing the jobs or tasks the CM obviously does not know how or willing to do. It breaks my heart we finally have employees willing and wanting to work with each other and want to help each other, and they are reprimanded when they do. It also breaks my heart when employees need a third party to contact me to meet away from City Hall, away from my home to discuss matters. They are terrified. These are employees we need and we want working here for our city. We want them here. They know the city and what's good for the city and their fellow employees. We finally have utility workers working with the police and fire department because they are tired of being told that they shouldn't. They know working together is the right thing to do. Thank you, guys. I have decided all my questions or comments will be done at council meetings in front of the public rather than directly to the CM because I don't get answers. I am avoided or I am told to go elsewhere for the answers. It seems she has forgotten the council is her boss. I thank Mr. Barber for his courage to stand up for what he has spoken to me about. We need more employees willing to stand up. This has to stop. I believe the DCM/HR director should have been immediately terminated for her actions towards the fire chief. That was uncalled for. There are witnesses that proves the DCM/HR director cannot handle her job or being questioned. At this time, we need to cut our losses and terminate the city manager's contract. I also remove the DCM from that position, and I would go as far as removing the HR director from her position because of the confidentiality that she violated. I believe lawsuits will follow with hostile workplace charges that we cannot afford or want. I move that we put this on our agenda to terminate the city manager immediately. Also, I would go as far as removing the deputy city manager /HR. That's all.
If I understood correctly, it's not appropriate to make a motion at this meeting?
I would like to move that we put it on the next, or
Perfect. There you go.
next agenda, that we do.
Thank you, much better. I'll ask at this time if there's any other council member who has a comment.
I have a couple of comments.
Mr. Cox.
I've read some emails that were actually sent to us, as far as that the mayor put on. And when you read it, they come across as angry, hostile. Before I joined the council, I would come to meetings, and even before I got on planning and zoning, and I've watched our mayor berate a citizen for like 15, 20 minutes because she bought a house on a tax deed and came in, she had somebody who wanted to buy it, and for the reduction of the tax money. And for like 15, 20 minutes, on and on and on and on to that lady. That's not how we treat citizens. There was an email about the situation that we've talked about between two employees. I replied, the mayor went to reply back, actually sent it to the city manager, who forwarded it to me, and made Mr. Goodman aware of it. But I also noticed there was an email that was not City Hall on there. It was a citizen's. And, that was kind of a confidentiality thing at the time amongst all of us about the situation. Are there other emails going out? That's kind of a little bit of my fear. Now, I've got a paper here as well that I typed up. And, with comments on the last evaluation from you, Ms. Jones, and Ms. Marguerite with it. And they're positive comments with the city manager. But I've just got some concerns about if we get hostile with the citizen, or angry, or even with an employee, it's going to cost us a lot of money, because if they file a lawsuit, we can't have tempers from the mayor, the people in the city, the workers or anything like that. So, but like I said, I do have one, and I'll go ahead and read it. And I did this over the weekend because I had nothing but else to do. Over the past few days, I've wondered, how did we get to the point to where we're having a special meeting to discuss the city manager and her employees? Do we not have better things to do with our time? Did the employees come and talk to the city manager? Did they not get the answer that they wanted and then turn and go to the mayor? Over my 30 years of management, I've been told no before, but did not get to go to the CEO to get what I wanted. Since Jackie has been our city manager, there have been strides with moving Williston forward. So I still wonder, how did we get to this point? What has changed in the past few months since her last evaluation? Here are some comments from two of our council members, Deborah Jones and Marguerite Robinson, taken from Jackie Gorman's evaluation. First time since I've been on council that we fairly have good news on financials. Ms. Gorman researches and uses grants to our ability, or as available, sorry. Planning and zoning, as well as utilities, are now trained and pointed in the right direction. Their training period is over and no more excuses for them. With the help of her department heads, has implemented effective training programs for the staff. Jackie's always thinking and is always trying to help the Cal staff from the bottom to the top with skills that are needed to do their job better. I do appreciate the city manager's bi-weekly report and current affairs and projects. In cooperation with our financial company director, stays abreast of our budget and budget needs and keeps council informed. Everything's been running smoothly at City Hall up until the election time. So again, I ask, what's changed? We have a new mayor. On the mayor's Facebook page, a few comments about winning the election, and these statements appear. He promises voters that during the campaign, he would fulfill the responsibilities of mayor as outlined in the city charter and not expand on them. While my name was not shown, while my name may be shown as the victor in today's election, it is a win for the citizens of Williston because you have elected somebody who truly cares about ethics, honesty, and integrity. To the city employees, I have heard you. I'll be here for you. Together we will strengthen our policies and practices, open and honest communication, free of intimidation and threats. As mayor, shouldn't employees be instructed to go back to Ms. Gorman since the CM employees are not the mayor's employees? According to the charter, the mayor oversees police and fire, not city employees. Here are some of my concerns about what's happening regarding statements listed above by the mayor. Some of the responses to emails come from the mayor. Comes across as an intimidation and threats. When Ms. Gorman asked what the special meeting was about, the mayor replied, "Good evening, you are." In a confidential email that was sent, this is one I talked about earlier, to council members and the mayor from Ms. Gorman about how to handle certain situation, I sent back my opinion. The mayor replied to my email only to send it to Ms. Gorman instead and not replying to me at all. Looking at the email thread from the mayor, there was an email address that was listed that was not a council person's email but a citizen's. this does cause one to wonder about what other confidential emails might be sent to citizens from the mayor. Before I was on planning and zoning, I attended council meetings in which I explained about the lady with the house, so I don't need to read that again. With the responses to emails from the city manager and council, some could take this as bullying, intimidation, creating a hostile workplace. Ms. Gorman's job is to use her skills, resources, and talents to the betterment of the city. Will everyone be happy with her decisions? No, you cannot please everyone, but at no point should it get to the point of bullying, intimidation, and creation of a hostile work environment.
Mr. Bullock, I'm gonna call on you. Do you have anything to add? You don't have to. If you do, this is your time.
Well, we're obviously not voting, so I'm not gonna do a whole lot of talk other than the fact that, to answer some of Mr. Cox's statements there, I think, as far as one or two employees, I've had several meetings last week and this week with several different employees, so it's not like it's just one gruntled employee that's having the same problems. Also, one of the things that, as far as raises last year, and you give somebody a raise and then they're not meeting expectations. I just refer to college football. Look at a college football coach, signs a big contract, gets fired the next year. Does good one year and gets an extension and fired the next year. So, to me, money don't really mean anything because you made it at one point in time. But as far as other comments, I'll wait till we're ready for them.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ross, do you have anything to add at this time? No? Okay, I guess I will just add, I think everybody knows that I'm really close to Ms. Gorman. I will add Ms. Robinson's comments. I do come to City Hall when I'm called to come. I get called by various people. Sometimes it's the city manager, sometimes it's the city clerk. I sign checks every week. Sometimes it's the HR director. I do come when needed, when asked to respond to something. Sometimes I give advice. Sometimes that advice is taken. Sometimes that advice is not. Ms. Gorman and I have had many conversations in the last couple of weeks. I have also had many conversations with the employees, just as you have. They've come to my office. They've come to my house. I've heard things that I haven't heard in the last couple of weeks. And my employees are just as important to me as anybody, all of them from the top to the bottom. I try to know all their names and what they do, and what every one of them does is important. And I want them to know that. And I value every single one of them. I have had conversation with Ms. Gorman that it gets to the point, she's done so many good things for the city. From the minute she showed up as planning director, that she has built that department to what it is now, and we've got a lot going on when it comes in the planning area, the permitting area. I think she's taken us forward on a lot of other avenues as well. I think some of her processes have much improved the city. Some of you don't think they have. All of the things I've heard read tonight, I can tell you that there were inaccuracies, and I try really hard not to interrupt when there's an inaccuracy. Nothing major, but some inaccuracies in things that were stated. I have also, though, said to Ms. Gorman that when it comes to making a decision, when it comes to her, when it comes to Ms. Nelson, when it comes to the city of Williston, that I will vote to protect the city of Williston. And as I said, I have listened to the people who have come and talked to me. And in the matter of
week to 10 days, my whole thinking process has changed. And the more I talk with the city manager, the more I have to realize that I think we are, as I've told her, beyond repair. And I'll just leave it at that. So,
I'm sorry, I can't see you, so I don't know if you're done or not, but, I mean, I would not, from what I'm being told, and I'm not there, but I would not want to work for a boss that talks to some people the way that some of these employees are saying that they've been talked to. As far as what I would like to refer them to do is, and I have to agree with the mayor, I would like to refer them to go talk to HR, but in a way, HR is their boss. We've created a big problem here in the city with that promotion move, and so they have no one to come talk to other than privately coming and sitting on my back porch and talking, and so something's got to give somewhere.
I had something else in my brain I was going to say. It just went right out just as quick as it did.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay. I was almost through. Let me see if I can get it back. I hear the phone ringing. That's all I could hear. I will say, however, I also, like some of you, I know, because I'm told by the city clerk that many of us have pulled the city manager's contract over the last week, to 2 weeks even. And we've all read it. We all know what it says. We all know what the options are. She has options. We have options. I can tell you that I'm not out to ruin somebody's career. I'm not out to, I think we've done enough damage in the public. I will say, she read her letter into the public first, which I can tell you I knew she had written a letter. I advised her not to read it. But she did. I can tell you that I would rather she give us a resignation than throw her to the wolves. So that's just where I stand. Anyone else on this council dais have anything to add at this moment? If not, I'm going to go to the public. Because it says right down here, public participation. So that's where we're going to go next. All right, so public participation means that you have up to 5 minutes to speak to this body. And there's a clock right over here that governs that 5 minutes. And you can please stay on subject. I guess who knows what the subject is. We didn't quite have one. But if you would like to, you could come to the podium. You can, all I need is your name and your city of residence. So at this time, if you have something to add, the podium is...
Yes, should they be sworn in?
I don't think we're taking witness testimony at this time. Thank you for that, though. So I will open the podium mic if anybody would like to make comment at this time. Pro or con? If the red light's on around the top, it's on. And if the digits are showing, it's on.
Okay. I have a lot of concerns about this meeting, about the process coming up to this meeting. And I don't think there's very many innocent people around. This is a process that should have been addressed some time ago. And we know that there is a divide between council and the mayor. There is a divide between the city manager and many of the other employees. It's no secret. And yet, there has been no action. And it should have been brought before us long before this point, because when you let something fester, it only gets worse. And so it's not a matter of scolding the people up here, but it's a matter of maybe we need to learn a lesson here. If indeed this goes the way it sounds like it's going to go, we need to learn a lesson. That when things happen, they need to be brought forward. Because if they're not brought forward, then it resorts to gossip. And it resorts to taking sides. And it's just like a fight in a sandbox with elementary kids. That's what we've been having. And I just want to say that the citizens, the taxpayers, don't deserve that. Everyone involved in this fight gets paid. Maybe you say you get paid too little, but everyone involved in this fight gets paid. And we, as taxpayers, should expect more than what we have gotten. And somehow, when problems happen, let's go ahead and do something about it. I don't think firing one person or two persons is going to solve the issue. But somehow, there needs to be some way, and there needs to be some process by which problems are addressed. And so far, we've seen no solutions. What happens the next time when this occurs? What's gonna heal what's already been done? And who's going to pick up the pieces? Somehow, firing someone without a plan is no plan at all. Because all you do is hire someone else and let them come in and inherit the mess that's been created. So I think before you jump to the conclusion and jump to do something like this, somehow we need some forward thinking. We need to figure out, and it may not be too late with the persons. I don't know, and that may make people upset with me, but I don't know if the action being taken or the action suggested is the correct action. Council, do some thinking. I think that before you put whatever Ms. Robinson asked to put on the agenda, before you do that, you all need to have a serious discussion. If it's a workshop or if it is a council meeting where that's part of the agenda, that needs to take place, because we need to know the path forward. The citizens need to know the path forward. And it ain't just firing a person, or firing two people. Well, actually, firing 3 positions is what the proposal has been so far, and I don't think that we need to go further, and we need to think proactively and not reactive. And what we're doing tonight is purely reactive, and we deserve more. And I'm just requesting that you all look at that you discuss it as a group in front of the public. And let's come up with some kind of solution that's going to be in the best interest of the people sitting out here, the citizens, because they deserve more.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Anybody else at this time? Yes, ma'am. If you will, state your name and your city of residence.
I missed the gentleman's name. Did he state his name?
Albert Fuller.
Albert Fuller.
Albert Fuller. Mr. Fuller, I would like to nominate you for mayor of Albert area.
If you will, pull the microphone over so that we can hear you.
My name is Taryn Delisle. I live in Gainesville. I'm an attorney. I represent Deanna Nelson and Jackie Gorman, city manager, and HR deputy city manager. I heard I'm a little confused because it sounded as if the mayor believed his emails were not public record. You could ask the city attorney, or you could Google public record government emails. Those are public record. So I'm a little confused about that complaint, which was copied by Ms. Robinson. The mayor was sworn in April, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, and Ms. Gorman, the city manager, was hired by council December 2018. It is a loss to a city, as Mr. Fuller pointed out, to fire long-term employees on a whim. I am surprised that this is happening. I don't know what your policies and procedures are particularly, but I would suggest this is a bit bizarre. To come to a meeting which was not properly noticed and purport to speak for third-party anonymous folks, that's bizarre. If there's a procedure where people are to speak up, and I'm certain that there is, it's not in this manner. So, your complaints, Ms. Robinson, and your complaints, Mr. Goodman, that purport to speak for third parties who are anonymous, to me, that's a waste of time. And I have so many things I don't think I could cover in 5 minutes. I would like the opportunity to speak further with the city attorney. I appreciate his advice that no action be taken, and I appreciated Mr. Fuller's comments that there's got to be a better way. We deserve better. I think that was the smartest thing said tonight. Honestly, I appreciate that. And I'd like to be part of that, something better, if given the opportunity. I did try to speak with Mr. Goodman earlier. It was very brief. I would suggest that nothing be done in the shade going forward, that it be done in the open sunshine, consistent with Florida law, and I'm happy to help in this situation in a way that does not involve, let me just quote you, Mayor, if there's an employee that needs assistance, help them, do not attempt to remove them. That's a quote from you. Do you apply that uniformly when it comes to a person who has been employed by this city for 4 years? Apparently you do not. I don't appreciate that.
Anybody else at this time? Mr. Mills, is there anybody online?
Nope, no one heard.
I saw Ms. King first. Thank you, gentlemen.
I'm Cookie King. I'm a real estate broker. I do not live in the city, so I don't really get a say at the polls. But this is a snapshot of our city. A lot of people do not understand how we got to be Williston today, but this is not representative of our city at all. With all due respect, Ms. Gorman's attorney may not be familiar with our city culture, and we have a culture of kindness. I'm looking out at all these people here. I'm looking at these people here. This is a snapshot of something that I don't know how we got to this point, but I think our culture can get back to the way it is, because I know Williston, we love, we care, we take care of each other, and I'm sure this is all going to work out. I don't know what's going to happen with these positions. That's not my decision, but I just want us all to remember this is a snapshot. Let's not run Williston down. Let's not leave this meeting and say there's a bunch of hoo-haws up there. Let's work together and put it back together. Let's do the things that we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you for those positive comments, Ms. King. Was there someone else in the back corner, or were you just trying to get my attention for Ms. King? I think that was it. Anybody else who'd like to make comment at this time? Anyone online? Mr. Mills.
I haven't heard earlier. Anyone online wish to speak? Unmute your mic and speak up now. No one heard.
Thank you so much. The only other thing I would like to add is I agree 100% with what Ms. King said. Williston is a wonderful, loving, caring place. Our employees care about each other. They care about each other every day. And I think that's almost, and let me tell you, you have, this one's for Mr. Fuller, you have to know what's going on. And yes, maybe we were blind because people thought we didn't want to know. But when the employees start coming to you and telling you, you have to listen. And I think maybe some of them may have tried to talk a little earlier, and we just weren't wanting to hear it. But when they all start coming, you have to listen. And I see Mr. Johnson's hand. If you'd like to add something, I would love to hear it. No matter what it is.
Marvin Johnson. I didn't want to say anything. Mr. Fuller has said pretty much everything. But I'm listening to this, and I want to thank Mr. Cox for what you said. Because at the end of the day, I don't think there's anybody on this council that would want to come to a meeting and not know what I'm going to defend. I've had to do that at my church. We make sure everybody knows what's going to happen so you can walk in and you can present your side. This is why it's a democracy. I'm glad our lawyers told us that there's no going to be no voting. That's not the right thing to do. There are a lot of feelings right now. And when Ms. Gorman read her letter last night, my 5 minutes not running. When I read my letter,
That means you get all night, right?
Yeah, I got all night. So when she read her letter last night, I was totally blindsided.
I think we were all shocked. I think it took us all the same way.
And to ask the question to the mayor, you know, what is it about? You know, and to say it's about you. I campaigned for him. Mr. Robinson, raise your hand. Him and he's met me at my shop, we've talked. I don't agree with a lot of things, but the other day I've heard things about everybody in here. All the way around this room.
Don't believe everything you hear.
But at the end of the day,
believe it.
We all should work together. This did not happen overnight. Not all these complaints I'm hearing about, 8 weeks? You say you heard 8 weeks? Everything had happened in 8 weeks. So was she ever disciplined, like suspended, sent home without pay? That's not what the real world. I don't know how politics up here work.
When it all started out, and maybe as participation I shouldn't talk back, but as it all started out, it was all anonymous with no name attached. There was nobody to talk to.
And that's a problem.
Yes.
If a person goes to complain, they should put their name on it. You write a letter. You present something. He say, she say don't work.
It's okay. We figured out who it was. At least I did in mine.
But we're the public, and we're sitting here trying to figure out what's going on with this council. Last night started me to saying, do I want to move my business out of Williston? Because I lost respect for the council starting last night, and then to come here tonight, and I'm watching kids, like Mr. Fuller said, play in the sandbox. I respected this council. Do I disagree with everything? No. Do I agree with everything? No. But Ms. Jones, you and I have kind of had a little time. But you know what? I can work with you.
Absolutely.
Ms. Gorman, I've always had a great relationship with her. My thing is we have to learn how some way to not throw 4 years away. I agree with Mr. Fuller. You guys need to sit down and talk. And if the Bible tells us over in Matthew, and I will go to the Bible since everybody here. You know, we pray and everything else. Matthew 18th chapter, 15th verse. You got an ought with your brother, why didn't you go to him? Mr. Mayor, if you had the ought, because you called the meeting, that's why I'm going to put it on you. If you had an ought, you should have went and sat with her because you the mayor. Then if she didn't want to listen, go down to the 16th verse. Then you could have took Ms. Jones as a witness. Then you could have brought them to the council, which is the last verse. I think we're doing everything backwards here. So I think we're jumping to a conclusion. And as a citizen that pay taxes here, I do think the council, I recommend that the council do go sit down and hash this thing out, figure out a better way to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anybody else? Okay, I guess we're there. Anybody else has a statement to make? And we can't vote?
Now, do we put that at, does the mayor want to call another special meeting or do we put it on the next agenda?
I think we have too many special meetings. We've got budget hearings coming up out of our ears.
Hey, we're free Friday.
I think we have council meetings that are on the agenda, on the calendar, and that's where we need to be.
Okay.
People know when those are, and they will be here if they want to know.
And we'll put it on the agenda.
But I think we should.
Mr. Fuller, I do appreciate what you said. However, there are a lot of feelings and a lot of things happen between employees and the city manager and HR. I think it's been happening for the last few weeks and it's just come to a head. And this is how we had to deal with it. But I do appreciate what you said, and we will take that under advisement.
Sometimes that wonderful sunshine law that we all love so much,
Hate it.
it tires our wrists. I hate to do this kind of thing in public. We've just done it because we had to. Ms. Gorman did the same thing last night. She had to start the conversation last night because there was no other way to do it. Yes, we've got some issues going on with this council and this mayor sitting up here, I can tell you. We all need to strive to be that wonderful person that Ms. King says knows we are. And I will, at this point, if nobody has anything to say, I'm seeing Miss Latricia with her finger up. Yes, ma'am.
Just for clarification, you're wanting me to put this on the next council meeting agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Which is September the 6th.
Yes.
Okay.
The next meeting is. Unless we want to have a meeting before the meeting.
We've got enough meetings.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Budgets and everything else.
I was just taking
about
Mr.
meeting now.
Fuller's and Mr. Johnson's comments into account that we might need to have.
A little cooling off period.
Yeah, well, further discussion with the people, the employees that we're actually speaking about.
But if I may say something too.
Yes, sir.
I've ridden with Donald and Jonathan and talk to the employees and go out. And I enjoy doing that. When I see them out working, I enjoy stopping by and seeing them. But when we toured out there at the sewage plant and all that, the biggest complaint the employees talked to me about was the previous directors, and not supplying them with the proper tools, given options of, well, you can get that new, or you can have a raise. It's not how we do it. You know, so that's the kind of things that I had heard. And I see a lot of them. One of the nice parts about working right across the street, I also get to talk to customers who live in the city. I don't have my badge on that says city council. But when it's not busy, it gives me an opportunity to talk to those customers. And when I find out they live in the city and they have issues, then, of course, I can't spend all day talking to them. But I'll give them my card and say, hey, email me, please, with your issues that you're having. I can't promise you anything, but give it to me, give me your contact information, and let's do it. That's working for the citizen.
Right.
That's the way that we should be doing this, regardless of who we are and what position is. It's for the citizens. Bottom line.
Thank you.
But I enjoyed the rides with Donald. Don't get to, it's kind of hard to do with the going with the police and fire. But I hear them several times a day because right there across from where they're at. So, we do have a good group of workers, but it's enjoyable when you get to go work with them and they have the opportunity. But nobody has said anything negative. So the only negativity is not, they're glad where we are today because they do have the supplies, they do have everything they need to do their job, where they did not have that in the past.
Right. I think every single one of them who have even got something controversial to say about the city manager will tell you how far we have come. I don't think a single one of them, and I see all their heads nodding, I don't think a single one of them will tell you that we haven't advanced the city of Williston from where we were, that we've come forward, that we do have those necessary items that they did not have before, that she has made sure that they get, especially on the public works side. They honestly did not have the safety equipment they needed. They were buying their own safety equipment. And when you talk about previous employees, they were buying their own safety equipment with their own dollars. So we are now buying that, and that's important. And I don't think a single person will tell you that, like I said, that we have not advanced under Ms. Gorman's leadership. But I think they all, I won't say all, there are many who have approached us who have concerns with her leadership style. And I think that's all it is. I don't think that's what it amounts to. Is there anyone else who wants to make a statement or has anything to say before we adjourn? Chief Rolls.
I'd like to.
Yeah.
Better go first. Ladies first.
All right, Ms. Stiegel, you can go first.
I'm Darlene Stiegel, and I do not live in the city.
Perfectly fine. You're from
Thank you.
Williston.
I'm the spouse of Chief Stiegel, and I'm sure he's probably right there going, "What are you doing?" But
that's what he's doing.
Yeah,
that's all right. You're allowed.
If others can address the council and the mayor, I just find a lot of disrespect given to the mayor. And thank you, Mayor, for trying to listen to police and fire, because it seems like the council really has more consideration for every other department but police and fire. And I don't want to say everyone, because reading Ms. Gorman's letter last night, I hope everybody didn't take everything for 100% truth, because it is not. There are lies in that letter that frustrate me. It frustrates me that situations have gone on and not been dealt with and created this position we're in. We have an HR person who aggressively addressed my husband in a meeting that did not get dealt with by the city manager. And you know, if you want to talk about rumors, rumor has it they celebrated that she did those things to him. So a lot of disrespectful things going on, and I'm one of Williston's biggest cheerleaders. I love my city, and it breaks my heart what's going on. It just, I don't understand why the city manager and the deputy city manager / HR, whatever we want to call her, are continued to allow to behave this way, because in the corporate world, you'd be fired, from my opinion. Her letter was not truth, and I just want everyone to know that. Her letter was not truth. Mr. Cox, I want you to know that. Because you read it like it's truth, and there are some very offensive things in her letter towards me, towards my husband.
I read what letter?
The letter that she read aloud last night.
She was sitting right here,
Right.
so we all heard it.
Okay.
He didn't read it, but she did. She did.
Okay. So nobody has gotten a copy of that today?
We
And
did
read it again?
after the fact.
Yeah, so you've read it.
Yeah,
Okay,
after
you've read
the
it.
meeting.
I just want to make sure you read it.
After
Okay.
the meeting, it was sent
All
to
right.
us by the city clerk.
All right, well, that's basically all I have to say is I hope that this does not get dropped again and not dealt with, because we're going to push it off for 3 more weeks, is what I'm hearing.
Yep.
Okay, all right, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, who else?
Oh,
If you'll go to the podium, please.
I just have one question.
Yes, sir.
Spotlight. I noticed Jackie and Deanna didn't show up tonight. Was there a reason for that?
They chose not to come.
They just chose not to come?
They did.
Wasn't it on advice of the attorney that they should?
I have no idea.
Is that what it was?
Is it appropriate to answer your question? I can take that question outside of the meeting if you wouldn't mind.
Well, I'm going to say that they didn't show up.
My answer is I have no idea.
I'm not a government
They're not here.
official, I'm not-
And I see that they're not here. That's all I know.
Very frequently,
Yes, sir.
whatever we talk with our clients about is attorney-client privilege. So that's why Attorney Terry can't say anything about it.
Right. Okay, going.
Chief.
Oh, Chief Rolls, I forgot about you. How did I do that? Pull that microphone close.
Chief Rose, Williston Police Department. First of all, I just want to say thank the council and everyone for being here to participate in this meeting to hear about issues that we may have in our city. We have a great city. We have a great workforce. Our employees are valuable employees. And we all know, whether we want to admit it or not, if you are an employee of an establishment and you have a problem with your supervisor and your livelihood and the way you take care of your family depends on your job, most likely you're not going to go to that person who you have the complaint or the problem with to discuss your issue. I mean, that's just keeping it real. That's truthfulness. I am proud of this city. I am proud of these people. I'm proud that the employees feel comfortable enough to come forward with their concerns. They deserve that right just as well as the citizens, as Mr. Fuller said, deserves better. The employees deserve better also. And I'm not saying that Ms. Gorman or Ms. Dina's done something wrong, because I'm not aware of all the stuff except for what I've heard. But the employees are just as important as anybody else. And let's not forget that. Let's not get tied up in the bureaucracy of feelings for one side or the other. Let's do what's right for both. That's for Ms. Gorman, Ms. Dina, and for these employees that evidently have these issues and these problems that they have boldly spoke out about. And that's all I have to say about it, is just remember, there's 2 sides to every coin. And we need to look at both sides and then come up with a solution that will make our employees happy and that will resolve our issues that we may have. That's it.
You're right. It takes courage for them to come forward and tell us what we need to know. And we will encourage them to continue to do that. Yes, sir, please.
My name is Justin Miranda. I do live here in town, in the city of Williston, and work for the county. I'm happy for the meeting tonight, although I agree with Albert, it's hard. But I've had issues, or could have almost seen some of this coming, since the city manager had combined her department with the Department of HR. I'd also hope that the city manager and her assistant / HR, this would be something that their lawyer they've obviously hired or gotten counsel from would understand that that was part of Ms. Gorman's doing, to bring in HR / from some of the way processes were not followed 100% correctly, or done maybe the way they should have been done. But when you take a powerful position like the city manager and you combine it with human resources, that was a big, bad, no good thing from the very beginning, because there's always going to be a conflict of interest. I've worked for big organizations where the main person in charge had a business CFO or whatever underneath of them, but that person was completely in love and sold out to the main person, you could never take a complaint to them because it would cost you your job, which is why people speak out anonymously, once again, answering the attorney's question of why we have third parties speaking. I also worked at another amazing thing in sales, where I worked with the sales manager, who was a great guy when he was great, and my livelihood depended on him because I couldn't process and finalize a sale without his help, but he also was very difficult to deal with. And took me in one day to try to get me written up by HR. I was sitting there getting ready to sign the paperwork because I knew I had no choice but to sign that paperwork to get a reprimand on my record, because otherwise my flow of sales could be cut off from underneath me because he holds that power. Fortunately for me, I had an HR manager who is what an HR manager should be. Integrous, everyone's friend and no one's friend. And everything is situational and everything's to the merit of the situation as it happens. She asked the manager above me to please leave the room, and she said, "Is there something you need to say? Is there something that you're dealing with that you need to talk about?" And I don't know what was said in that room after I left, but I no longer had to sign a reprimand, and it changed the relationship I had with that manager that I worked under. Big part of this issue is that the HR department was not handled correctly, as it was combined with the powerful position in City Hall. That created a vacuum that no matter what the best of intentions, things are going to happen, because how can you go and raise a concern or a complaint to the person who works solely underneath and was brought up and brought into a position by the person now over them, and then bring an accusation against that person? It does create fear. We're stupid to sit here and act like it wouldn't, and that it doesn't, and that is something that your client should consider as well. This is a thing, all of us have our own path to walk, and sometimes we stumble over ourselves. 4 years is a lot of time to put into a city. That is important. I like the football analogy, but it is that way. Sometimes the greatest people, some of the greatest geniuses in the world, are terrible managers, are terrible with people, and it will neuter and destroy their career. Not because they're not good, but because they're terrible with people. The people in the city ultimately work for us. The people, and as a person of the city, I want to know that people who work in the city are happy and whole and feel appreciated and feel encouraged, because I've worked in places where I made big money, but that's all that mattered to them, and I was nothing else. And if I had an issue, goodbye, see you later, go find another job. Or I was intimidated. All of us have probably worked some job, whether it was McDonald's or corporate USA, where that's happened to us as well. And that's why there are HR departments. That's why there are checks and balances. So everyone, they want to complain about something stupid, that's what the HR manager files. Like, hey, you know what? They deal with that. So it creates a buffer between leadership and between people under leadership, and everyone can be served faithfully and honestly and have their voices heard.
Thank you, Mr. Miranda. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Try one more time for a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We will adjourn at 7:30 p.m.